how we want to generate some force in the golf swing. This is power. Forces in the golf swing, they do change. The magnitudes grow and shrink depending on the shot that you're trying to hit. And really it's your intention. You know, I've got a driver in my hand and an iron, an approach iron. And obviously the length is different and the speed, the intention that I have is different. I'm trying to hit the driver as hard as I possibly can. And when I do that, the effective weight of the club grows. If we're talking about the total weight of the club, it's very, very light. And then with the club, the mass of it away from my hands, it gets much heavier. Now when we start to swing it at speed, it can weigh as much as 40, 50, or 60 pounds. So imagine, if I gave you a 60-pound kettlebell and I asked you to throw it as far as you could, you would increase ground forces. It would happen automatically. So when we reduce our swing or maybe swing a little less hard than you possibly can, the ground forces automatically start to match up. You don't have to think very hard about this. You just want to know, what's your intention? Am I hitting something as hard as I possibly can? Am I hitting a stock shot, more of something I can find the center of the green with? Or am I even maybe hitting a bit of a knockdown shot? So the good news here is that you don't have to think about altering that. It's the force of the club that's going to enact on you that you have to counter through the ground. So when we look at driver swings and you see players just crushing the golf ball off the tee, this is sometimes where you see players really getting in and out of the ground. I like to say that here is where balance is highly overrated. You know, when you're trying to maximize the force of this and make it go as fast as you can, you might not have picture-perfect finish positions because you're maximizing your ground force and countering the force of this golf club. When you do have some approach irons and shots that are maybe not the highest magnitude you can hit, a picture pose finish might look great here. So it does change depending on your intention, the length and weight of the club, and how much energy you put into the golf club. So I've got a great drill that you can practice anytime with your scoring clubs. And it's great to practice this to learn the magnitudes of your forces change depending on the size swing that you're making. And if you were gonna hit a normal shot, I call that a stock shot. That's the one that feels most normal and under control for you with a full swing. If you had to hit in between clubs and you had to hit into the wind or maybe flight something down, I call that a squeeze shot. You might even say it's a knockdown. And then we've got a bomb. We've got the full swing all the way up at the top of the meter, as hard as you can hit it. And think of this as maybe a ball that's sitting up and you're in between clubs and you want to hit a less club as hard as you can and carry it uphill to a big green. You need these three shots: a stock, a squeeze, and a bomb, because the round of golf is chaos. And what I mean by chaos is that you never know what you're going to get. You know, you could play the same course over and over, but depending on the lie, the weather, the hole locations, your shots change all the time into the green. And this is a great exercise to do with your scoring clubs. I've got a 7-iron in my hand, and I'm just going to start with the stock shot. This is the one where I've got my normal swing stance. I'm going to start with a light jog. I'm going to unweight to the top and run my full swing sequence. So struck well and hit normally, my path is usually a little bit into out. I tend to have a draw pattern with what I have, a little closed club. And that was 87 miles an hour with the club head speed. And that was a decent carry for me with that, about 179. Now, I'm gonna be the in-between club shot now, the one that I call a squeeze. And you're gonna notice, I'm not gonna modify my setup. I'm not gonna change where I hold pressure or try to do anything that's limiting with my golf swing. I'm gonna make a softer swing. I'm going to run my full swing motion, and I'm just going to slow it down a little bit. The trajectory lower, the ball flight a little flatter, but my path still the same, that same a little bit into out, a little closed club face. Speed dropped down about 5 miles per hour, and the shot, that carried 161. That's a great shot into the wind. Maybe I've got to punch it through some trees, get the ball back on the golf course. That's a great swing to have. The last one, the fun one. This is the bomb. And this is the one where I'm going to get a little wider with my stance. I'm going to jog a little bit harder. I'm going to get a little bit more into that falling into my front foot. And I'm going to try to hit it hard at that 100%. Now, when I swing harder, I'm adding as much force as I can. And you'll notice again, my path hasn't changed a bit. It's the same couple degrees in to out, a little close with the club face. And I get that one up to 91 miles an hour with my swing speed. So a pretty good range that I just swung there between 10 miles an hour between the shot swings, but no change in the sequence, just a change in the force and the magnitude of the golf swing. So you're really not trying to alter anything, make a different path or release pattern here. It's just changing the magnitude. So a great thing to take away from this is that you're going to keep that great centered contact you're used to having, your normal path, your normal face alignments. But what's changing here is the magnitude of your swing. So we're going to take a deep dive into these three shots and the forces, the magnitudes, and we're going to see something really interesting, that I can change the force of the swing. I can swing at a stock swing, I can swing fast, I can swing a knockdown, but the timing is going to be the same of all the swings, only the magnitude is going to change. Now, this is the stock shot, and you'll notice I'm jogging, there's some pressure leading the backswing. I'm going to get to the top and I'm unweighting just like I normally do, falling forward. And in my stock swing, you'll notice I'm using a horizontal shift first, that's the purple. Then I'm going ahead and turning, and finally I'm extending or getting vertical, all in the correct timing here. Peak horizontal forces happening when my lead arm is about 45 degrees. Peak torque forces happening right when my arm gets about parallel to the ground. And finally, my peak vertical force happening when my hands are at my waist. So this magnitude of torque, we're just going to use this example here, is 1.34 force factor. Now I'm going to get to the squeeze shot. And when I use the same face-on position here, we're going to notice that the same sequence is at play. When I go back fully, I jog a little bit less, but I still swing back. Here comes my peak horizontal force. My peak torque force happens exactly at the same time. This time it's reduced down to 1.11. Now, I'm not swinging as hard. I slowed my swing down to 82 miles an hour, and my force automatically reduced. I didn't need to think about it. It just worked the same at a different magnitude. And look at that, at waist high, peak verticals greatly reduced now at 142%. Now, let's go to the bomb, the one where it's the most full in my swing. And when I bring this up here, you're gonna notice that I'm doing something different with my feet. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I've got them a little bit wider. And when I'm a little bit wider with my feet, I've got a bigger base that I can rock back and forth on. I can bounce bigger. And when I do that, you'll notice a bigger move away. That's a bigger negative horizontal force. When I turn back and I get to the top, I get a much faster backswing, and that gives me a greater horizontal force. Look at that, the highest I've got of any of these. Now, it happened at the same time, 45 degrees to the ground. When I get my lead arm parallel, look at that. The same timing of the peak torque force, now at 1.54, the highest of all three swings. And finally, when my hands get back to my waist height, there it is, peak verticals. So no change, but look at the difference in club head speed. 91 miles per hour for the bomb, 82 miles an hour for the squeeze shot. And when I finish back on the stock swing, I'm back at my 87.5 miles per hour. So this exercise, really great for getting your swing where you want it to be, practicing your sequence and changing the forces of the golf swing. When you do this, you'll get different trajectories, you'll have different distances, and you'll be prepared to play for any shot that you get when you see it on the golf course. And this comes in really handy when I want to control the height and carry distance of my shot. This is a masterclass in how to work on your scoring irons, and it's something that every player needs to do. The reason? You're never going to have the same shot over and over with all your scoring clubs. It's going to change constantly. And the better prepared you are to change your swing, to change your shot type, the more prepared you'll be to handle the chaos of a round of golf. Learn the 3 shots, and it's going to help you with your approach game.